it. Screws fall out all the time. The world's in a perfect place.
Crazy, insane.
Insane?
I don't have it. Screws fall out all the time. The world's in a perfect place.
Drink it.
I don't have it. Screws fall out all the time. The world's in a perfect place.
Drink it.
I don't have it. Screws fall out all the time. The world's in a perfect place.
Man,
Every damn night?
every night, Mitch. I ain't playing with you.
On the
I
telephone?
don't have it. Screws fall out all the time.
This boy talking about on the telephone, man.
Man, it's
What's
so
that? Goddamn, we know there's a telephone, boy. What the heck?
Crazy, insane.
Insane?
I don't have it. Screws fall out all the time. The world's in a perfect place.
Hey, who'd you talk to? What's going on? It is me, Michael W. King, Mike L. This is Legit Paranormal, brought to you by legitpodcast.com. It is February 18th, 2024, 218-224 for the math geeks. What's it like this? Oh no. 11. Oh, brother. 2 times 4 is 8. Divided by 2 is 4. Okay. And then 8 divided by 2 is 4. Times 1 is 4. 4 on both sides. That's the only way I could ever pull that off. Joining me as always is Cyn Shrader Hill Author.
Hey.
What's up, Cyn?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. You see, even you can't wait for the whole saying your name before you start talking. I'm like, Cyn Shrader Hill, and you're like, hey, I'm like, author.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in like over a week, so I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm ready.
You're trying to jump in?
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. All right.
And I've just had 2 shots of moonshine, so it's all good.
Moonshine. Joining us as always, Sarah Parah.
I hate that you do that now. Can you just say my whole name? Normal? Can we move on?
How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you? I before we get started, we typically ask all of our loyal viewers to please like and subscribe at legitpodcast.com. Spell it out. We are streaming on Facebook, Instagram, legitpodcast.com, and now Parapost Network. Thank you.
And I
Carry on.
posted that crazy link that exists, almost like a Bigfoot link. Like people heard about it, but it's tough to find. It's the link that allows the StreamYard YouTube viewers to connect. The Facebook viewers for us to view their comments as opposed to us being able to see the YouTube feed. Which,
Yeah, they got to give permission, which is sad because I go on there sometimes and we miss their comments when we're live, and I get sad. I'm like, oh, I wish I saw that while we were doing the show, but you got to give permission to StreamYard so that we can see your stuff.
I wouldn't say I get sad. I think it's a little harsh of a reaction, but joining us is Diane Lupo. Inner voice or reki. I hope I pronounced that word right.
Yeah.
Diane is now in Tennessee, originally from Rhode Island. I'm repeating everything we talked about in the previous.
Not everything.
No, not everything. That's true. Diane, welcome to the show. How are we tonight?
Thank you. Great. Nice to, you're outnumbered, aren't you, Mike?
Yeah, it's yeah. Eventually, it'll be like they all rolled over and one fell out, and go to the left, and I'm out. This
is like women power. This is good.
So now, Cyn, I don't know if this is your first time meeting Diane.
It is.
Sarah, it's also your first time meeting Diane.
Yes.
Now, Sarah has an interesting question. Diane, first off, Sarah, you were talking about Reiki.
Yeah. So I got a book as a gift. It was for Cancer Witches. I am a Cancer. And I opened it, and the first page I I opened it to randomly about healing. I was trying to do some distance healing for someone, and it mentioned that cancers are very good at healing and energy work. And so, and Reiki and therapy and things like that. So I was like, maybe this is something I should look into. I haven't learned a lot about Reiki. So I'd like to ask you, Diane, like, how did you get started? What would you recommend for someone getting started?
Well, just what you did let it come to you. When it falls in your path, you know. I was doing radio, and we had a recording studio in our home, and we were doing talkstreamradio.com way before everybody was doing podcasts. We had about 25 shows, so we were going almost round the clock at one point. And during that time, one of my 2 cats was badly injured, and she was scheduled to have her leg amputated. Someone had tried to grab her right around Halloween time and tore all her tendons. So one of the women I was doing an interview show of unrelated. It was all music. It was about music. I'm also a musician. That's the thing I've done the longest in my life. And the person who was with the singer said, "Can I go sit with your cat? I'm a Reiki master." And I had no idea what it was. He went downstairs. He sat about 6 feet from my cat. He just sat there with his eyes closed. And I said, well, this is interesting. You know, the next day, my cat, who had only walked on her elbow, the next day she was trying to walk on her paw, but she was walking all around the house. So I called the vet and I said, I don't know if we should amputate her leg yet. And she said, no, call that boy back, get him back there to do that thing. So I did. He came back I think it was 3 times. And Stellar will be 19 in 3 weeks.
Wow.
I call her the Reiki whore, if that's okay, because
That's fine.
once she did Reiki, I said, okay, I have to learn this stuff. So then I started creating holistic shows and body and soul and the human story. And I interviewed everybody I could up the East Coast. I was doing expos at the time with Roland Comtois Medium. And I also had the advantage of getting into all those health and paranormal and healing expos. So I interviewed everybody. I learned about all the modalities. And then I said, okay, I'm going to go for Reiki too. There's something about this. But I hadn't felt the energy yet. I didn't really connect me as a healer. And my mentor kept saying, you're a healer, you're a healer. And I said, no, I'm a singer. You know, I'm a singer and I like to do radio. I'm an entertainer, I'm a comedian, you know, I'm all those things. So little by little, it began just becoming part of who I was. It became a lifestyle. It really is a lifestyle, but it's for everybody. You don't have to be called. You're not special if you do it. Children do it naturally. Animals are natural healers. I worked with a lot of animals now, and long distance healing with animals is incredible because they have no barriers. They don't have that ego getting in the way or that fear or the worry or the doubt. They just receive and they're on that higher frequency, you know, and they have 3 heart chakras. So we have the heart chakra that goes front to back. They have 3 points in their bodies, horses, dogs, and cats, which is why they're so heart-centered, and they like their belly rubbed, and they like the back of their neck rubbed, you know, and they like under here rubbed. So I just started having so much fun with it. And then it was a few years later, I said, okay, this is definitely my calling. And then I went on to Reiki Master and then Reiki Master Teacher. So if it fell into your lap, Sarah, just follow the signs, follow the energy, because that's
I love that.
Do, right? You do energy work, and it's all about energy. It's just becoming the empty vessel, right? It's becoming Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's the neuroscientist who's really married spirituality and quantum physics. So he's given us the proof now, like when you're in those great meditations and things are happening, he has so much documented about, you know, you sit in a chair and your footprint, your energetic footprint can last up to 40 days in that chair. So imagine at the mall, those reclining chairs that people put the coins in. Like, can you
Oh.
imagine the energy that's in those from all the different people? So
I don't want to sit in those anymore now. I don't know if I want all that energy.
Now I need a plastic cover.
I don't know if that's going to work, Mike.
yeah, before COVID, we didn't think about it, but now we think about it. And now when you think about the layers of energy, right? So you guys working with paranormal, you know, some houses you walk in, it feels thick as a brick, right? It's like you're walking through a thick haze.
Right.
But sometimes you can walk through the mall, and if you focus if you focus not on anything, but actually maybe lack of focus, you might be able to begin to feel all those energies in a big place like that too, that aren't paranormal, but just residual energy from all the people who've gone through this. So I love energy. Love talking about it. I love learning about it. I'm like enthralled with it because we're on the precipice right now of really getting validation of everything we've done. You know, the paranormal with like the creepy, weird people, and the Reiki people were like, oh yeah, they're really out there. Like there's even jokes about it in movies, like, oh, anything but Reiki, you know, because there are legitimate people in every field, and there are fakers in every field, and even in music, there are posers, there are the real deal. So you just have to discern who you're dealing with and how you're going about things. But energy is fascinating.
Cyn, do you want to ask a question before I rattle off like 3 or 4?
Well,
Let me give you the heads up.
Let me first say, I am so glad you were on here tonight and talking honestly about pets and Reiki. And let me tell you a little something weird. So I have actually used a little bit of it in physical therapy on patients.
Oh, yeah.
And why I have not thought of this, I've got 3 cats that are suffering different things. Why I have not thought about using that. The whole time you've been talking, my hands are hot. And I've been using them on my cats, and I haven't.
Oh, I won't say all animals love it. I had 2 cats. But Stella, we called the Reiki whore, because anytime she would get in bed and she would like force her way under my hand wherever she wanted the Reiki, you know, she would find a way to get under my hands. My other cat, Bella, wouldn't come near it until I started practicing in my home. And I had my friends and cousins first that I was practicing on, but then I started a business, and I had people I had just met who were referrals, but coming in, and my Bella would actually put her paw under the door, shake it to break in, and she had to be part of the Reiki session. And I had 2 clients I apologized to, and I offered a free session because she jumped up on the table and laid across their legs, and I was mortified. But both clients are still my very good friends now, because they said at the point in time she jumped on them, they were taken off, and she grounded them. So I learned from them that some are Reiki healers. So they want to give the Reiki, and others like to receive it. The only time Bella accepted Reiki was right near she just transitioned about 3 weeks ago, and right before her passing, she allowed me to give her Reiki because I know she was in a bit of pain. But other than that, no, she wouldn't hear of it.
So,
Wow.
Okay.
Nice.
First off, with the dogs, I have 2 dogs now. See, here's a weird thing. I went to Lincoln Tech, and I was a month away from getting a massage therapy license, and then I had a fluid buildup that caused like a tendon pull, and they had to operate on my wrist. So I actually never finished. But when I pet the dogs, I aim for 2 spots. One, places he or she can't reach. I have 2 dogs. That's always number 1. Places they can't, and if the bigger the dog, there's more spaces he can't reach. And then secondly, it's always I end up not realizing that, like, I'm almost massaging their necks, like I'm working the muscles of a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: when that happens, I'm not thinking of anything important, obviously. And I feel like my dogs help me, and I help them. I feel like it's almost like I don't know, like one without the other is no big deal. It's like Reese's peanut butter cup, I guess.
No, animals are so intuitive and so intelligent about energy. Well, do you all have pets?
Yeah.
So, sometimes they chase an imaginary something around the house, or if they catch a vibe from someone, they don't want to participate. They'll let you know who to trust, who to not trust. I had a neighbor who admittedly said, I really don't like cats. And every time he spoke, my Bella would just scream over his talking. She'd be quiet when my husband spoke. And then as soon as he talked again, she'd start, meow, 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 meow. She didn't want any part of him. So you do learn from them. The first experience I had was with a draft horse. We called him Horsosaurus. His head was like this big, and he was way out in the pasture. And I went and I was getting in my zone, and I was just praying and trying to draw him towards me. Well, all of a sudden he's charged for me, and I panicked. I am not a horse person. When I was a child, I was on a horse once, and it took off.
No, you should move. You should move
with me. Right. So horses were not my thing, but it was a friend's horse, and she and my husband was standing behind me. And as the horse charged, now this horse, she would climb a ladder to a landing to get on to ride this horse. That's how gigantic he is. And he came towards me, and as he did, I backed up, touched the electrical fence, and we both got jolted. And I said, "Oh man!" And it was not fun. But I immediately went into prayer position. I went, "Oh my God, he's going to kill me!" But he took off, and then I felt bad. I said, "Oh my God, I broke his trust." So I sat there, I stood there and bowed, and was praying. And all of a sudden, I heard my husband and my friend gasp, and they were going, "Oh my God, oh my God!" He slowly walked towards me, and he stopped about 3 feet from me, and then he bowed. And when I came up and saw him, I was overwhelmed, and I realized he understood my fear. He understood I was there to help him, and then he positioned himself so I could work on. He had an abscess, and I was able to reach where I needed to reach. And not that you have to get right on the spot with Reiki. You could touch any part. If you don't know where to treat your animals, just where it's comfortable, the Reiki goes where it needs to go. It will just
that horse, Diane, also learned that if this lady touches me near the fence, I'm gonna get electrocuted. So there's another thing to also learn. It's smartened up. Would you say it's smartened up overall? Like in general, it's smartened up.
Just like that, quicker than my son ever did. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that about horses, though, Diane, because everyone kind of teases me. We're talking about like animals, cats and dogs having souls. And I grew up riding, and I've always felt this connection to horse. I'm by no means an expert rider, but this connection to horses, like when I look in their eyes, they just are so soulful.
Horses are incredible. Well, I learned about horse therapy when I was interviewing all these people. There's a man, I think it's I could get the information for you. It's either Barrington or Newport, Rhode Island. He's by the water, and he was doing therapy with his horse and his dog for people who had phobias or people who had, were crippled in some way. And the horse knew how to behave, and children knew how to help people through that, to help them through their anxiety. And most of all, post-traumatic stress, any kind of trauma. This horse was a healer. So hearing the stories and the people who, wrote about the experiences afterwards, I learned a lot from that way. But the firsthand experience is another thing.
Can we say that it's a bit of a crapshoot though with the animals? Like in other words, I've had 3 dogs. Out of the 3, one instinctively knew what to do without even being told, and the other are pretty stupid, which is what I appreciate in a dog. That's not an actual insult. They're just kind of dumb, and I like that. But Clementine was an old English bulldog that I bought, and then I wasn't supposed to have bought because we had twins, And I had to raise her at my office at work.
Ugh.
So she was constantly with me at work, like all the time. And then created at night. And then we had to figure out a way. I was so worried about how she was going to act around my twins, right? And it was pretty much like, if it's bad, she can't be at the house. So it's like I got to train her for that. I don't know how I trained her. I had no like fake dummy kids to pretend. But she's the only dog I've ever seen that just like walked into a situation, was like all hyper and whatever, and then saw kids and just froze. And then it decided to be like she would walk where they walked and she'd stop. If they had food in her hand, she never moved. If I had food in my hand, she was all up my chest, on my face. Like we actually have video of her where she would. So they would run through the sprinkler, 1 kid, 2 kids, and then the dog. And they would all go around, make a circle. It would be 1 kid, 2 kid, and then the dog, and go around the circle. And then at the end, what happened was it'd be 1 kid, 2 kids. The dog would grab the sprinkler with her mouth and turn it and spray. And I'm not joking, spray the kids.
That's awesome.
That's how good she was with the kids. It was crazy how Clementine was. But now, like with Kobe, the dog I have now, the gigantic dog I have, about 140 pounds, I don't trust him to be careful around. And I would never put him in a China garden. You know those commercials where they would show the
Right.
boat come in and all the glass and crystal would be just destroyed. Yeah, I would never do
Well,
that.
that's being a responsible pet owner. It's never the animal's fault when a child is attacked. Where's the parent? That's
Oh no,
what-
he wouldn't attack. He wouldn't attack. He would run up and then try to stop, slide, hit the kid. Like, he's too big. You know what I mean? Like he's dumb. He's happy, so you can't. It's tough. Just
little
saying.
clumsy fellow.
Yeah, I wouldn't let him. But he would never bite anybody. But he might run into you. He leans.
They
He's a
would be
leaner.
very protective. Friends of ours we would hike, and they had 2 little boys and a German Shepherd that they had before the 2 little boys, and Sheba would run ahead of us
Sheba, yeah.
on the trail, and then she'd stop, and as we walked by, you would see her do this. She was counting us. She counted to make sure we were all on the trail, and then she'd run ahead again, and she'd wait for us to pass, and then she would count. And animals are amazing. Yeah,
Sheba was a popular name.
Yeah.
Amongst dogs in the 70s and
Yes.
whatnot.
it was in the 70s.
My uncles had.
I
dogs.
am that old.
So am I. I'm just saying.
I have a cat named Sheba.
It was just a popular name. My next question was going to be this. So Diane, I'm trying to figure out music wise. What were you doing again, music wise? Because I was in music, you were in music. We're from the same area. I'm trying to put that together.
Well, I started singing in nightclubs at 14.
Okay.
Wow.
I had bands 14. I went to Berkeley for 4 semesters. My 4th semester, some of the teachers were forming a band to go on the road, and somebody said, "Hey, you want to be the singer?" So I said yes. So I dropped out of college, much to my parents' chagrin, and I went on the road with the 8 guys, and we did a little bit of, it was like soul, and one of the guys was a James Brown impersonator. The other guy was like 6'1", and he sang high falsetto. So we did 3-part harmony, a lot of rhythm and blues, and that kind of thing. After a year, the guitar player got a jazz contract out in LA, so we kind of disbanded. And then I put together a 9-piece Vegas style show band with 4 girls, 5 guys, light crew. It was
Nice.
the 70s, 80s, and 13 years I lived on the road. I worked 6 nights a week. We traveled everywhere, Scandinavia, Europe, and
So here's what's weird. So myself, I started to try to record songs when I was about 11 or 12 in the shed with a tape recorder. I would write songs. My first band was actually Bubba Frampton and the American Frogs. I don't know why. That was the name I came up with. So
we had some weird names.
but then I started a band with people from my high school that we had no right being in music. We were one of those bands that took it on the chin so bad the first year. Like, in other words, if you were a serious band or a band whose feelings got hurt, you would have never made it. Whereas we were always like, them, let's just do it again. Let's see what happens. We just had a gang mentality. There's like 6 of us. But I also dropped out of college because of it. actually just went back and got my associates by showing up in 2019. Literally, I just showed up. They gave me a degree and I walked out. But back to this. And then 13 years I was in the band. We released the 3 CDs. We did the touring. I had the summers where it was like, oh boy, leave on a Wednesday, come back on like what? Monday? Like I think I was home at one point. 2
That's
days.
nice. I used to come home twice a year. We were out for like 6 months at a time.
No, see what I was just describing almost ruined my entire marriage. Like,
well, yeah, it's difficult to be married in a situation like that. So for a while, I had he was keyboard player, then he was a drummer, and then he became my keyboard player. But his wife ran the spotlight, and usually that's what I would try to work out. So a wife, if there was a wife involved, I was a wife for the first time. My first husband was in the band with me, which was okay until we weren't together anymore, but we had a 9-piece band that we had to keep. We had contracts, so we worked for 2 years through our divorce and through his girlfriends. Oof. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Oof. we
just you and I.
Listen,
yeah,
we're a 6-piece band, right? And then 5 of the 6 went to high school together.
Oh,
so
that's nice.
On top of that, 3 of the 6 have been together since kindergarten. So the type of fights that we would get into were just different than what everybody else thought of his fights. Like ours were just always so ridiculously Italian and explosive. Like, we would be we were in New York City and we got into an argument with each other where the bouncers were like all prepped to throw us out. We're like, we're the same bands. Like we got to go on. And then we also got in trouble for pranking people in the bathroom with that fart machine, but that was very childish. I'll even say this right now: childish, immature of me at the time. It was really funny.
You never do stuff like that anymore.
Until the 6'4", 6'5" guy. Now I'm about 6 feet tall, right? This guy's about 6'5", and he looked like he was about 275, right? And what happened was the bass player went in the bathroom, and he was going to sit in one of the stalls. And I would keep hitting the fart machine from outside. He would ask for whatever. And it was funny to us until a woman walked into the men's room and went in one of the stalls. And my bass player had no idea that it was a woman. And I'm like, ooh, what do I do? Now, this is where I'm a jerk. I could just not play the fart machine and let it go, or I could put him in a bad predicament. And here's the problem. When you're playing clubs that open until 5, 6 in the morning, it's 3 a.m., you probably make the bad choice. And anyways, a 6'4" guy showed up and pulled him out of the stall. And I had to run in there with the Howard Stern remote control to get him to stop. Diane, see, well, we were more, it was tough coming out of Rhode Island, because here's the thing with Rhode Island. There's Boston, there's New York. And you try to get someone to come to Providence, just in general, in Providence, and they had a hard time with that. I never could figure it out. And other than this, Boston bands or acts would always bring up other Boston acts. Nobody in Providence ever really did that.
Boston was actually Rhode Island's a tough crowd too. If you're an outsider, Rhode Island was always a tough crowd. I just had this conversation with my son, who's a drummer, who's on the road now, which is why we moved to Tennessee to be near Nashville.
Nice.
I got the message, you have to be in Nashville for August 1st. So we sold our house, moved down here, and it was the first week of August. My son had an audition, and we haven't seen him since. He's been around the world a few times already. So, but we just had that discussion because now tonight's the last night of the Great Lakes tour. And he said, boy, the Pennsylvania crowd was a little tough. They were different than the other crowd. I said, yep, I remember it well. I worked all through every town in Pennsylvania. I said, but go to Missouri. Tennessee was okay. We didn't do a lot of country music, so it depended on where you played. And I said, but you'll see that the crowds are different. New York was horrible until
loved it. I loved
the third set. If they liked you,
yes,
by the third set, then you were, king of the hill.
Yep.
But you didn't know if they liked you because they would just sit and watch, and nobody would clap, and they would just sit and watch. So it was a great education.
Here's the difference, though. So here's where it probably was easier for me in this sense. So the crowds that we were playing for, they weren't sitting they were about to slam into each other, and just it was mayhem. That's the shows we played, literally.
You do metal music, or
it was so for a while there was like a rap rock. It's all the rage. Like there was Limp Bizkit, there was whatever.
Yeah.
We would actually doing it for a couple of years locally. We should show up and try to get into clubs like Babyhead or whatnot, and they would be like, no. Well, what's the DJ for? What do you mean you're gonna rap? No, and like because they didn't understand what we were doing, but we still kept making our music because we didn't care. But what I noticed was we would go to a city and we would do the opening, and I would just stand there and I would feel the crowd of like who I was dealing with. Now sometimes it's easy to spot. Like we played one place where everybody. So we play for a band that's called Straight Edge. That means that all their fans they draw X's on their hands, and they claim to not drink, do drugs, they abstain. I don't know, all these other tooth fairy type. Like it was way up there. So we're not that band. Like we're not the band to be on this bill. So we go up there. I remember feeling how much they hated us. You know, you can feel. I mean, they don't have to.
It's energy.
Really
I wish I knew then what I know now, but I have to say, I was incredible. It was a gift. I could walk out onto the stage, and like you said, you could. It's a collective energy, and it doesn't matter. There might be one table that loves you, but if the rest are like ready to tear you down, bitch, then you have to figure that out and be able to flip it. So, and I would turn around and just say, change the whole set list like in a second, because I knew I had to get these people.
Yeah. No. All right. So see, that's where you probably were successful. Maybe that's why I wasn't as so, because here's what I did. I'm like, oh, all right. I turned. I'm like, play Beer for Every Man first. Now that's a song that we play at the end that became like kind of one of our songs that was played a lot in different places. I've seen in jukeboxes. It was kind of a joke of a song, but it became like I don't know. And I know that song would piss them off the most. And I'm like, let's play Beer for a Man. And they're like, no. I'm like, let's piss them. I'm on stage going, let's piss them off now. Make them hate us the whole time and do our job. I don't want to pretend like they're going to like us and make them think they might like. No. They don't stand for what we like. So let's start with it now. And we open with it. They flipped us off for 2 songs, Diane, and then turned their backs to us for the rest of the set. And I got to be honest, in my own mental little, it was one of my favorite moments ever being in a band that I got a whole
those are the
crowd
ones
to turn their back.
You remember those moments. We've had things thrown. Where was it? Well, when I sang with the black guy and we went down south, I had things thrown at me for singing with the black man. And we used to do Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway. I was Donny Hathaway, and he came out as Roberta Flack, and he would sing the girl part. I sang the guy part. It was a big hit up north, but not so big down in Alabama or Mississippi. So you learn, And then another time in Chattanooga, Tennessee, a new agent. We were a show band, so we did Broadway show stuff. We did Earth, Wind, and Fire. Everything was choreographed. We had the lights and the flash pots and all that crap. Well, he booked us. He said, well, before you go to Florida, how about if I put you in my cousin's nightclub in Chattanooga, Tennessee? And we were like, oh, that's great. We don't have to drive, 24 hours. We can drive 12 hours and, get a break. And we got there, and it was a biker club. And it was, if you ever saw the Blues Brothers when they're playing behind the cage. Yeah, we came out. Now, the guys in my band wore red jumpsuits. So imagine red jumpsuits in the late 70s with capes at a biker bar while everyone's screaming Leonard Skinner and throwing beer bottles at us. We lasted 2 hours that night. But we had agents and managers, so they took care of all the headaches.
Life on the road itself, the stories that end up happening.
Oh yeah, I could do about 10 shows.
The frustration, though,
Mike,
there's a lot of.
Sorry.
Can we ask Reiki questions?
Yes.
Diane.
Yeah, give me a second. Can you give me one more second?
He says, "Give me a second." This could go on for hours, Diane. I feel like
Diane, as far as
I'm having flashbacks.
I'll change it to a point. So as far as mediums, mediumship, that kind of stuff,
It's bringing it around.
that's become the next target for debunkers, the British debunkers, the videos they do. People that I know watch the videos. They've started to move on from, I guess they had an issue with the paranormal couple and how they figured things out. So now they're moving on to all people, and they unfortunately are focused around the whole Conjuring House area, which oddly enough is such a radius of people that it can involve, right? So
negative energy attracts negative energy is, my mantra. Right. Positive energy attracts positive energy. It depends on what you're putting out and what you allow in. I get bombarded with a lot of negative energy just for what I do. I used to hide it first. I do Reiki, I do Reiki.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore because I know I stand in my truth, and I know it's. I don't fear that it's anything evil, or I'm not letting evil in, because I'm very purposeful about the energy. My intention, before I do anything where I know I'm going to be allowing energy to flow, I have to make sure I'm right. I have to make sure I'm in the right place. So even with paranormal, and I've had this discussion, I think, with your guys, Mike, and a few other teams, you have to go into whatever you're doing when it involves energy with respect and with the right intention. Well, what is the right intention? It's getting out of the way. It's leaving the ego behind, and only asking for the highest and the best to be present and to lead you to a place where you may be needed. If you're not needed, get the hell out of there. But if you are needed, then you got to show up. And, sometimes it's challenging. I do readings quite a few days a week, and it's challenging because some people have extreme needs and extreme trauma. And, if they're not seeing a therapist, it's my job to say, maybe perhaps you might want to get a little extra help here, there, or somewhere. But it's also my job to just know not to judge the experience, but to just be there, to show up. I've been brought here to the table for some reason. Why did Reiki come into my life? Like it just has arrived in Sarah's life. And then what am I going to do with it? Am I going to be responsible and follow through and hope that it reaches who it needs to reach and helps who it needs to help, heals who it needs to heal? Or I need to step out of the way and go back to singing. I do both. I do a little bit of a lot of things, but when I'm doing my energy work, I take it seriously. I do. I honor and respect energy of all kinds, even negative energy.
I think the biggest issue has been, and this is obviously of a younger generation too, it's the doing it on command. That's where they even lose me. Like, in other words, it's a live broadcast. There's 10 million people watching. You need to make something happen. And I don't think the paranormal should ever get involved in a situation where it needs to make something happen. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I've been struggling with that, Mike, myself, with the mediumship. So I don't say I'm a medium. Mediumship happens sometimes. Sometimes spirit wants to come through. Sometimes it has a message for whoever I'm with. But I don't ever want to be in a position where I am conjuring up or really working hard to make something happen that maybe it isn't the natural way. Now, there are mediums, like my niece was born gifted. Her gift was present from birth. And I saw people as a child, but I never wanted to open that door. I am still like, I have the window open, but I don't have the door fully open because it's not something I enjoy as much as allowing it to happen organically. And, I worked with Roland Comtois for many years, and I have so much respect for him because he was offered so many television shows. I can't even. He could have been the most famous guy out there, but he wouldn't compromise his integrity. And he turned down some real nice offers that we were even like on the fence of almost like, come on, Roland, do it, but no. He stood in his integrity, and because he wouldn't sell out for just what you said. They wanted him to walk on the street and, grab people and make it happen on the spot. And that you lose the whole sacredness of the experience, so I honor that, and I struggle with that because sometimes it's very strong with me, and I have to negotiate where I'm at with it.
So let me ask you a question, Diane. Cyn and I recently did a show with our medium, Sarah G. Witch MD, and we sort of were talking about the difference between empaths, mediums, and psychics, and where they cross each other. So don't you think, though, with Reiki, I mean, it's big into visualization. Like, when I'm not doing Reiki, I'm doing a spell, but it's like visualizing, almost pulling the sickness out of someone. Don't you think that there has to be some type of mediumship or ability that goes with that when you're doing a distance thing, because you're connecting with someone?
No,
it's not physically present.
Because there you're getting in the way. There you're navigating, you're directing, you're stipulating, you're projecting. It's just like when you work on manifestation, when you say, oh, I'm going to manifest this and I want it by Tuesday at 3:00, and it has to be blue. But the universe may have a totally different way, or time or delivery system. It might even give you something better than what you're asking for. When you're doing long distance Reiki, it's the intention. And everybody's different. See, this is the thing. It's not you. And how I teach my students is I teach them, this is the way you have to do it. You have to do it the way I'm teaching you, which is the way Dr. Yusui had taught it, until you hear something different, until you hear your guides, until you feel the inner voice. That's why I name my practice Inner Voice Reiki. Until you hear something else, then that's what you're supposed to follow, not your teacher, not your mentor, not your guide. We're each a part of the big ocean. Okay.
Yeah, I believe that.
So, and we all have our gifts, that's why my niece has a beautiful talent for communicating with the dead. She can call on my father or my mother like that. I can't, I have spirit come through me when I least expect it. And it's a fun, light-hearted experience. And that's the way I can handle it. It's my personal thing. When we get in the way with how we're doing it, then we're in the way. Long distance is simply the intention, seeing the person or the animal, and then getting out of the way and just asking for the Reiki to flow and to heal and go do what it needs to do. The Reiki is so much smarter than us. It's the universal light energy. It's the whole collective moving through us. It's not me, Diane, and boy, I've been doing Reiki for 10 years. It's like I've been doing Reiki for 20 years. My hands are really good. I actually heard practitioners say that. My hands are really strong. And my head wanted to blow up because I worked with trumpet players who played trumpet for 50 years, and they're not as good as they ever were 50 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So it all depends on what your mission is. Why are you here? And if you're truly allowing the universe to work through you, the universal life force energy to just work through you, you're a conduit. You're a piece of the puzzle. And some of my students are phenomenal at doing a Reiki session and getting 50 messages, people's names, dates. They can get all of that stuff. And other students I have, in fact, their hands aren't even warm. I have one I call ice pack, because they get like big ice packs. But boy, when my knees hurt or my back hurt, I loved when she worked on me, and she never got any messages, but it was the nicest Reiki session. I felt better. So everybody has a gift. Everybody has a different mission. It's honoring that and not getting in the way with how, when, where, why, or mine is better, or I do this, or any of that. It's really, the more you can disappear and allow it to flow, the more amazing the experience is for you and for the client.
So I'm picturing like in my head, almost like putting the message or the intent, like if you would put a message in a bottle and then you set it afloat in like the ocean of like the universe that connects us all. And the tide's just going to take it where it needs to go.
That's beautiful. See, everybody has a different way. Some people are very visionary. So some people, some people are clairaudient. I'm more clairaudient. I've always been clairaudient. If I get really in the zone, I could tell you what's going on in your house. I could go into rooms. I could describe your basement. But I don't do that all the time. I've done that on occasion, but I don't have time to do all the things I'd like to do. Maybe in my 80s I will. But
right.
So everybody has a different way. My niece goes into a room. She said, I just go into the white room, and some people think like everybody works the same way, but no, it's different for everybody. So the way you're picturing it, that's a beautiful way to do it. Other people picture the Reiki as big balls of energy in their hands and it goes through. And if that's what works for you, that's beautiful. That's great. But don't put I do this.
Right.
I do it this way. And I've heard so much of that. I really got tired of it, actually, of how people were trying to mainstream it to a point where it was becoming watered down and not what it is at all, which is, just be humble, just get out of the way, just let the Reiki flow. It's there. It's in all of us, right? It flows through everything.
The problem with healing, the problem with healing, Diane. The problem with healing is it grows the ego. That's
where your work comes in, Mike. That's where you have to do the work. I've had Reiki master teachers come to me and they're like, and they've gotten like 90,000 certificates and they're like, oh, this isn't happening and that's not happening. And first thing I say is, well, are you doing self Reiki? Are you clearing your vessel? Are you doing the work?
Right.
And, and then you get the hello, anybody home? So it takes, you have to devote some of your time to it. You have to show up. Now that doesn't mean that I sit and pray at my altar every day, but I do have some, I go out in nature, I get grounded. I do meditate. That's, I'm big into meditation. I think everybody on the planet should be meditating and we'd have a nicer planet. So there are those things, but it's everybody is different. I have other students who got into yoga and they incorporated into yoga, massage therapy. They're doing Reiki with massage therapy. And then I have people who do Reiki only long distance. They don't want to be involved with other people. They sit in their rooms and they send Reiki to whoever needs it. I have a whole team of people. And boy, when I ask them for prayers for something or for Reiki for something, I can't even tell you the amazing results, the amazing healings that happen. It's real. Dr. Joe Dispenza now has validation of healings like this. He doesn't call it Reiki. It's the brain healing, the energy healing. But at least now we have physical proof that it's not just psychosomatic or it's not just, lucid dreaming or, people have called it all kinds of things, but it's just a natural way. It's written about in the Old Testament and it's written about in Corinthians. I mean, it's written in the Sanskrit, for Pete's sake. So it's innate in all of us. It's part of who we are. It's just a matter of if we're going to allow it or not. When religion gets into it, that's another story. And I respect people who have beliefs about whatever they
believe in.
Yeah. That's it. I have students who are atheists and I get that, and I love Taoists. I've worked with some Taoists and
I'm sorry, Diane. Do you really believe in atheists?
do I believe in atheists, or do
Yeah,
I
like you believe
that
like
they are atheists?
yeah, because they talk about God all the time, how he doesn't exist. They're so focused on him that alone is like suspect.
Yeah, that's a conversation.
You know,
That's a conversation.
atheist
But
and
then again,
apostle.
what conversation is that? That's a conversation of judgment. So that's a conversation you're going to have, so you can
Yeah,
make a
Mike.
judgment about the atheist. So my thing is, like, do whatever the hell you want. I've been through it all. Like, I was on the road for 13 years, Mike.
No,
Yeah, Mike, stop being so judgy all the time, Mike. Jeez.
So no, well, let's be honest. It's
Are you from Brooklyn, Sarah?
No, I'm from Buffalo,
Oh,
New York. Yeah.
I heard a
Yeah,
little Brooklyn in there.
Diane,
That's
if you ever
me
played
making fun
Buffalo,
of Mike.
if you ever played in Buffalo, you know how just
I have played in
depressed-
Buffalo.
how
McKinley
depressing
Buffalo
it
is not.
McKinley Park.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was there in a blizzard. The snow was up to the
See?
third floor.
depressing.
Yeah, McKinley Park, and I worked for the Marriott chain for quite a few years, which was awesome because we got to stay at each place for 5 weeks. So we actually had like nights off.
Nice.
Yeah, that was nice.
Buffalo-
I love Buffalo. Buffalo
Stop.
was awesome.
Thank
Buffalo
you,
is-
Diane. Stop judging Buffalo. You went to one part, and your
Buffalo-
manager got you into a bad part.
We'd play Buffalo and then go to Sault Ste. Marie over the
Oh,
border.
nice.
Yeah, that was a great gig.
Buffalo is the Worcester
She's not going to stop.
of New York.
It's not.
They
If
have
you-
great Italian restaurants.
We
it's still
do.
the Worcester.
Thank you, Diane.
It is-
Yes. Is
listen to me.
Salvatore's still there? Salvatore?
Yes,
If anyone's been-
Salvatore's is still there.
If anyone's been to both, they know what I mean. Worcester is very much like Buffalo.
Mike,
in that
you
defensive
have
brick
to
building
go
feeling.
to Salvatore's Italian Gardens in Buffalo because it is like, I don't know, the Disney World of Italians.
Yes.
Like there's just statues everywhere.
I was there in the 70s, and I still remember Salvatore's Italian restaurant. He had his face on dollar bills. Salvatore. Yeah, and the fountain, and that was an incredible.
We drove
experience.
9 hours to Buffalo, right?
No, now we
got
don't
in-
need a Buffalo story.
Got in. No. Got in. These people say, I'm like, what time do we go on? And they're like, 3 o'clock. And no, I'm thinking he's breaking my, I'm like, yeah, no, really, what time? He's like, no, 3 o'clock. We're open till like 5 or 6. The headlining band's like at 4. And I'm like, I'm not going to make it to 3 o'clock. Like,
You
oh
are
my
a
God,
wuss.
even back in the day, I loved
You
naps.
could never
Like,
play Vegas or Atlantic City.
yeah, I can't do that stuff. You can't ask me to perform when it's like past my bedtime. Like for real. 'Cause you're gonna get either drunken, sloppy mess of a show, or you're gonna get an angry, I don't want to do this. I should be in bed type of
Cyn,
show.
you know Mike like I do. And the thing is Mike went to one place in Buffalo and he's got it stuck in his one place and he's got it so hyper focused in his mind that even though I lived there for the first 35 years of my life, I cannot convince him
You're
otherwise.
not going to convince
I'm
him.
not going to.
We were
so
opening
I
for a
gave up.
band. We were opening for a band that had just had this song on a Pepsi commercial. You ever see the Pepsi commercial with all the monks moving up? It's like Pepsi Light. It's literally like something like that. But that's how they just got known. And I just remember thinking, like, these guys think they're really famous in their heads because they did a Pepsi commercial. And I'm in Buffalo opening for them at 3 a.m. It was just, I'm sorry. I've always been a curmudgeon since I was a little kid. I was probably the
I
only
believe
baby
that.
curmudgeon in the whole hospital. But I was like, no, that's late.
You knew where you were at by where you were placed on the billing.
Yeah. So that's another thing too.
Oh no.
No,
Here we go.
Diane, we actually headlined other bands' CD releases because they knew that people in Rhode Island get tired around 11:30, want to go home after that thing, so they would sucker us into
You
being
have
the
to go get
headliners.
their gaggers.
Yeah, because we would try to keep you till 2 o'clock in the morning and then go to Haven Brothers. So that's how we were used. All right, back to all this. Cyn, you got a question?
Yes,
I do. So you talked about not getting in the way of yourself. And I think that is like the biggest obstacle.
Oh, yeah.
I am always getting in the way of myself. I'm my biggest critic. I am never good enough. Even when I am doing a good job, there's always something that can make it better, and I cannot get to that place I want to be. How do you help people get over that?
Well, the very first step is what you admitted it. You're aware of it. So every time that it happens, find something that works for you. You know, for my son, for instance, he's a performer, and he struggles with that. He's very tough on himself, and then he'll, you know, critique everything that he's doing. I said, just picture a big light switch like right here, and when you catch yourself, just flip that switch. But you have to have some place to go. You have to say, okay, this is limiting belief. These are limiting beliefs. This is old learned behavior. It's your body remembers this behavior. So I have to do something else. What I do with clients is I get them into doing some positive mantras, like writing your own positive mantra. I am happy and grateful that right now I am doing the work that I love to do, helping people, like whatever it is. I just made that up on the spot, but find a mantra so that when you catch yourself in that moment, you can flip the switch and get out of it. That's just ego. And that's the subconscious mind, which loves to set us up. Saying, I used to be singing, and while I was singing, I would be, oh, that was a bad note. Oh, that was a good note. Oh, that was a bad note. Oh, my dress doesn't look good. Oh, these shoes were probably not the right height. I would be critiquing myself from head to toe as I'm singing and looking at people. So I get it. And by the end, you're exhausted. Yeah. And what did you accomplish?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Beating yourself
just
down.
the fact that you're aware, but then have a game plan, have a way to get out of the way. And I'm going to say it, meditate, learn to meditate. Start with a guided meditation. And from what you just told me, I would say get a guided meditation that deals with limiting beliefs, plucking those out of your subconscious mind. And then just creating a little more space, you know, and breathe. That's another technique. So when somebody is in a negative, I call it, you know, going down the rabbit hole, stop. Breathe, picture a box. The Navy SEALs do this. Breathe in for 4.
Yep.
Hold it for 4. Exhale for 4. And then rest for 4. And then try to elongate how long you hold it, how long you let it out. And try to elongate that space where nothing is happening. Because that, Dr. Dyer used to call that the God space. And that's your goal when you meditate, is to keep creating more and more of that space where you can get into the quantum realm. You know, people are all psyched up in theta, but you want to get up to quantum, because when you're into quantum, that's when this no longer matters. The ego doesn't matter anymore. You are just there. You're in the flow. You're in the ocean. You're another droplet, and every positive little thing you can put out there, it's going to ripple. You know,
have you tried yoga nidra, Diane?
You know, no. In my 20s and 30s, I practiced yoga for a while, but I haven't in a long time. I do from time to time yoga, but being a singer, and I was a voice teacher for many years, I teach quantum breathing and different breathing techniques for different issues you may be having physically. I don't put myself out there as a breathing expert, even though I've studied with some amazing teachers yet, because it's still a level. There's a Chinese breathing technique, Kuan Yin, that is phenomenal, but I haven't found anybody yet who teaches it. So when I do, I'll let you know.
Yoga nidra is very, you actually do it completely still. It's like a meditation. Cyn, have you tried this? You focus on one part of the body at a time, and you picture the energy moving. You're not actually moving at all.
It sounds like a famous ninja.
It's just the energy. It's very similar to one of the
it's just the energy.
Dr. Joe Dispenza does is he isolates each part of the body.
Yep, that's what you're doing.
The awareness of it, and then you feel the awareness of it,
the whole body.
Space, until you become invisible. You know, and then then an amazing. I wish I had hours in the day to just meditate because it's like you go.
It
on
feels
journeys.
good.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
It does.
Couple quick things. One, Diane, you would hate my vocals. A second, and I actually was and the Phoenix used to do the best music poll. Providence, Phoenix, Boston, Phoenix. They would do the
Oh,
best
yeah,
music
yeah.
poll. I was sorry guys, gotta say it again. I was best male vocalist in early 2000s, and I was the
Wow.
first non-singer to win the award as best male vocalist.
Wow.
And I was like, that's,
Awesome.
yeah, but that's not right. The Italian guy wins that. But anyways,
Hey,
here's the thing about singers. We
Yeah.
have to right before we're about to go on stage, you have to convince yourself that you belong on stage, and you can't show for a second that you don't belong on stage, or you feel like you don't belong on stage. So there's a hype up that I had to learn to click
Yeah.
on, even when I was like sick. No matter how I feel, it's like when showtime would hit, you'd have to do these things.
yeah.
And it's like my thing was, I would just throw. I was one of those just let's throw the paint at the canvas for the show. Like I was more meticulous with like recording stuff like that. Live shows though, maybe to my detriment, I was more like, whatever happens, happens. Like we're that kind of band. Like whatever goes down, goes down. Let's like it was an adventure every show because I didn't know exactly, because sometimes band members throw tantrums. No, that's an actual real thing. You get a guitar player who's turning up, the sound guy's going, can you turn down? And he's like getting angry, and he's turning up, and it's also a fight between them, and you're caught in it's a long story. Cyn,
Yeah, I got a lot of those stories.
you might see, and being the singer too, it's like almost that helpless feeling of you want to look back at them sometimes and be like, please, can you get it together? Can everyone get on the same page? We once did a show where the bass player started off playing the wrong song. The guitar player started off playing the wrong song. Bass player couldn't hear the guitar player. The guitar player is such a that kind of guy. He's like, screw this guy. He's gonna play the wrong thing. I'm gonna play the wrong thing the whole time. And they did it for a whole song. And I just there's video where I just stop and you see me just going.
Maybe that's why you got the 3 a.m. spot.
Yeah, well, yeah, probably. Thanks, Dan. Way to rub it in. Cyn, how would you wrap it up? Yeah, you.
I think he finally kicked it to you, Cyn.
Wow.
I did 4.
Diane, thank you so much for coming on. Please come back.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you, Cyn.
So many
It's
more
a pleasure to meet
questions
you in Tennessee. I don't know too many people here.
Yeah, I need to come up. When is the oddities market up there?
I have no idea.
There's one in Clarksville.
Good answer, Diane.
There's an
I
oddities
have no
market.
idea, but I will check that out. I will check that
Yeah,
out. We
'cause-
have Arts Walk every first Thursday of the month on Franklin Street, which is our main street. And every store offers a glass of wine and free cookies. And my husband and I do readings at the Clarksville Collective. So the first Thursday of every month.
Sarah,
That's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Sarah, you need to fly into Nashville. I need to pick you up. We need to go over to Clarksville on the first Thursday.
Yeah, we can do that.
Clarksville is a lot of fun. Yeah, if you want to do something paranormal, I'm sure I could.
That would be great.
Well,
do
it's
something.
not far from the Bell Witch Cave.
No, it's
that
not.
sounds like a trip. Girl trip.
Adams is not far at all.
There is a lot of, well, right at the peak of the town is where they used to have the slave trades. And there's an actual walk where there's so much history here and so many old buildings. I wish they preserved more of them. They just tore down another old mansion that I know was full of life. But that being said, there are plenty of haunted places. Nashville and Clarksville, Halloween time is a blast because they do tours everywhere because there's so much activity. And we have the river that goes through, so the energy is incredible. So come down.
Sha Wooten saying she needs to come, and so maybe we need to do a legit trip to Tennessee there, and maybe let Mike go if he can be quiet for 10 minutes.
Yes.
What?
What?
Hey, Sarah,
Is it
how would
my-
you like to wrap up?
All right. Well, yeah, I definitely, Diane, I'd love to chat with you more about Reiki. If you're taking students, I'm
Anytime.
going to look into that.
I do students but via Zoom or however we do it. I do one-on-one. I do classes. A fact, a girl just contacted me, and I was trying to work out the time zone, and then come to find out she's from Clarksville. So I do have my first Clarksville student.
Take the last
yes, Sarah, anytime. I love teaching Reiki, and once you're my student, that's it. I'll make sure you keep at it. But you can't help but love having that. It's another arrow in your quiver, right? It's another tool, but Reiki can be incorporated into every part of your life, everything you do. So it's a win-win.
Well, every time you started talking, my dog would come over here. I don't know if you saw me petting her and put her head in my lap. Aww. And then every time Mike started talking, she start talking, she go back in.
We need to have a show just on the band horror stories. I have a book going, but I have to wait for a few more people to die before I can.
I have stories.
No, you two can do that. That would be great.
I get to be around some bands that I have stories. Oh boy.
And we've all heard them.
The dog's just walking away when it hears my voice because it knows its role. And it's going back to lay down while we do the show. I wish I was that cool. Diane, what do you have to say to wrap it up?
What do I have to say to wrap it up?
Yeah, what do you got going on? What's coming up?
Oh, what's going on? What's coming? Well, classes, if anyone would like a reading or a class or one-on-one meditation, I do Reiki one-on-one. I have a lot of people who fall asleep on the other side of the computer screen. Some people are having trouble sleeping these days and dealing with the anxiety. I've been working with a lot of those people. So anything like that, Diane Lupo 444 @gmail.com. I'm retired, so I'm at your mercy, whatever, I'm available. I have clients all over the world now. Thank you, COVID. I never thought that would be possible, but one little girl in Ecuador turned me on to people all over the world. So it's been a blast. I'm having fun in my old age.
Good.
It's a very honest approach. The delivery. It's genuine, so that's why it works. It's not like you're gonna bother to bullshit.
Like Cyn said, it's you gotta work at making sure it stays there. You gotta make sure you keep the humble in the pie for sure.
I'm with that. But just speaking to all bullshit though, if you'd like now, you can give to our cause. It's for dogs without paws. A dog is born without paws is a terrible thing. Please help now. When will we stop the madness? Dogs without paws.
Did Buddy Thayer come up with that, or did you come up with that?
No.
That was Mike.
That's just Mike.
I was there too. I got the assist. I get the assist. I was there too. Dogs without paws and feed an ugly baby.
Yeah, feed an ugly baby. And then the theory was, why? It's not hungry. It doesn't need food. We're just saying, buy it at 90 cents ice cream cone, you cheap bastard. It's an ugly baby. And we would never show the face, just blur it out. Feed an ugly baby. Long story. So I'm going to do my wrap up, Diane. I want to thank you for being on.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. So for Diane Lupo, for Cyn Shrader Hill Author, for Sarah Parah
Normal.
It's me, Michael King, Mike L. This is Legit Paranormal, brought to you by legitpodcast.com. Thank you for watching. We will see you tomorrow night with...
Is it legit?
Legit and legit
ladies.